Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to try and do this without a mic. Can you hear me?
You are Mike.
I am Mike. By golly. I'm going to try to do this micless, but not. So, it's great to be here. We've been going through a series of talks on getting through ordinary parts of life. Getting through those times of life that just seem to march on, whether we're aware of them or not. There are special times during the church season that we have a lot of activity and a lot of special emphasis, Christmas and Easter and so forth. But then there's big chunks of time that are just ordinary time. So Pastor John has been taking a look at those different aspects of ordinary life that we have to go through, have to manage, and navigate each and every day. So, Pastor John's been talking about some attitudes and perspectives that help give depth and texture to the ordinary times of life. The importance of gratitude. He spoke about the importance of gratitude, which is so key when times are difficult or maybe even hurtful. The element of release that gives us the privilege of knowing that God's in control. Our calling, which grounds us in the reality that we get to work in those areas of our strength. And then the last couple of weeks he's been talking about the rhythms of life, which give us kind of handleholds, those things which occur on a regular rhythmic basis, and then those interruptions of life, which blindside us. And all of those can give us attitudes and perspectives that give real purpose and meaning to life. And so today we come to another one of those attitudes that helps us offer praise through those ordinary times. And so it's always exciting when you get assigned a topic to speak on. And I'd like to share some thoughts today on the whole topic of openness. I'd like to take it a little bit different. There's a lot of things you could say about that term. But I'd like to take it in a little bit different light. I'd like to take it in the light of us being open to God's Spirit transforming us and helping us be involved in His transforming of other people. Being open to God's Spirit in our lives. So I spent some time this week thinking about ordinary life. Just what indeed is ordinary, everyday life. To us. How do people go about it? Have you ever thought of it? How do you go about ordinary life? How do you go about each day? I came up with this mental picture of how people go about ordinary life. And the more I thought about it, the less I liked it, but it was still, I think it does a pretty good job of kind of giving us a picture of what happens on a day-to-day basis as we trudge through life. After I came up with this mental picture, I listened to Pastor John's sermon from last week on life's interruptions and the disruptions of life. And in there, he said that when we face disruptions, there are three different ways that we can face disruptions. I'm sure you all remember them and can tell me. Well, maybe not. Okay. We can ignore them, we can react to them, or we can embrace them. And as I thought about those three, it's like, well, those are kind of close to the way I think we actually do handle ordinary life on a day-to-day basis. So I give kudos to Pastor John for having a great mind. And I won't say thinking like me, but we did come up with some very close similarities. So, just a couple of days ago, I got to observe people. My wife and I went to Epcot on Friday. And we got to celebrate our 44th wedding anniversary on Friday. We got to go to the Le Cellier steak restaurant at Epcot, which is almost impossible to get in, so we were excited. But I spent some time observing people. It was so stinking hot outside that we didn't want to walk around and see a whole lot. So we were sitting mostly inside the air conditioning watching these people. And I was able to confirm some of the thoughts I had about this picture I had about ordinary life. So in my middle picture, I see 3 different kinds of people. I'm sure there's a lot more different kinds of people. This is much too simple of a mental picture, but it'll serve our purpose for this morning. The first 2 categories of people that I thought about could either be believers or non-believers. It really doesn't matter, because what matters about these 2 different kinds of people is how they go about life. And the first type of person, what I pictured for going through everyday life was we're on a journey. That's why we call this place Journey of Life. We're on a journey together. We're headed in a certain direction. So I just picture people kind of, going down. Here we go. Life. Here we are. And there's trees and shrubs and buildings and people and, everything's kind of following us, and we're all just kind of going down life. Here we go. And the first type of person is the kind of person who does everything they can to stay out of the way of life. They're like, oh, got bumped into, got to get out of the way, I got to move. They do everything they can to ignore, as Pastor John said, disruptions. And everything they can do is to kind of fade into the background, not be seen. Don't let people pay attention to them. Don't interact with people or things. I mean, they have to occasionally, but they try to minimize that. So they're just heading down life, trying to be as least obnoxious as they possibly can. And then there's a second kind of person who's also, shuffling down in the trees and stuff, but instead of trying to ignore everything, they're trying to rearrange everything. They're out there moving the tree and moving people and gathering people around them and figuring out where that building ought to go. And they're in charge. They want to control their entire environment. They want to control others, and they want to control their environment so that they're moving. Now, here's the real surprise. Neither one of these people have a clue, for the most part, where they're going. They're just shuffling down on a journey. I don't know where I'm going. That's one of the most scary things in the world. If you ask people those kinds of end-of-life questions, where are you headed? Why are you living life? Why do you have that job? What's the objective for life? And you get, I don't know. Just, wait a minute, I'm shuffling. There's no real, most people haven't thought through those kinds of questions. They're just kind of shuffling down life. And whether you're a believer or a non-believer, and your attitude is to avoid other people, or your attitude is to control things around you, the results are the same in both of those instances. Life really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to things. Now, for the person who gets frustrated and has a hard time with life around them, a lot of them get to the point where they just want life to stop, or they replace it with other things. You've all seen a 3-year-old getting frustrated with life. They just hold their hands, sit down, they want nothing more to do with anything. Now, most 3-year-olds, fortunately, as they grow up, learn different life skills. And they typically move from the avoidance of life to try to manipulate and control life. But we've simply fallen into the position that either I want to be a minimalist in life, I want to avoid most of the conflict in life, or I want to control it. I want to make life what I want it to be. For many of us, we've fallen into a commonly held belief that if I can dream it, or something, if I can dream it, it'll come true. If I work hard enough, I'll be an NBA basketball star. If I try hard enough, I'll have my dream home by the time I'm 25. For a Christian, it's if I teach my kids the right thing, they'll grow up to be wonderful kids and love the Lord. If I study my Bible, I'll end up having everything that God wants for me. Now, there is a problem here, and that is sometimes those kinds of things actually work. If you actually work hard, sometimes your dreams do come true. But we know that enough about life to know that simply working hard, simply trying to arrange life as we want it, will not get us where we want to go. A good portion of churches today, and I'm excited that this is not one of them, teach this basic philosophy of life. If you want B, if you want an outcome B, then you need to do A. Because when you do A, God guarantees B for it. It's kind of a transactional perspective on life. The problem is that most of the time that doesn't actually work. Occasionally it does, but most of the time it actually doesn't work. God is not a transactional God. God does not give us things based upon our actions or attitudes. So we have people pushed around by life and people trying to arrange life on their own. Is there a third way? Is there a better way than one of those two? The Bible says there is, and I believe it describes a way that could be labeled openness. You're wondering where I was going to get that term. I really believe that the third way is an openness to the Spirit of God. If we're open to God's leading and transforming of our lives on a daily basis. I believe it's one of the keys to living life, normal life, average, everyday life, in a real significant way. Open to God's Spirit, teaching and challenging us. In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, Paul describes believers as either building their lives with wood, hay, and straw, or with gold, silver, and precious stones. He says there are those who are trying to arrange life or ignore life, and they're building a life out of wood, hay, and straw. And then there are those who are living in God's Spirit, who are building lives of gold, silver, and precious stones. If you just go back a few verses up into the chapter 2 of 1 Corinthians, you read this. Paul's classic description of three different kinds of people. But people who aren't Christians, I'll just read it to you. 1 Corinthians 2:14 to 3:3 says, people who aren't Christians can't understand these truths from God's Spirit. It all sounds foolish to them because only those who have the Spirit can understand what the Spirit means. We who have the Spirit understand these things, but others can't understand us at all. But we can understand these things, for we have the mind of Christ. Dear brothers and sisters, when I was with you, I couldn't talk to you as to mature Christians. I had to talk as though you belonged to this world, or as though you were infants in the Christian life. I had to feed you with milk and not with solid food, because you couldn't handle anything stronger. And you still aren't ready, for you are still controlled by your own sinful desires. You're jealous of one another and quarrel with one another. Doesn't that prove that you're controlled by your own desires? You're acting like people who don't belong to the Lord. So Paul describes three different kinds of people. Those who don't know the Lord at all, and the Spirit of God seems foolishness to him. And then two different kinds of believers. Those who are walking with the Lord, those who are open, I would describe as open to God's Spirit. And then those who are trying the world's way to live what? Those who are trying to be absorbed or trying to control their own destiny and their own lives. And in either one of those kinds, it looks like they're doing the same thing as non-believers. The writers of the New Testament describe these two fundamental ways of doing things, and I'll try and do what I can. These two fundamental ways of doing things. I'll try to do what I can to get ahead and succeed in life, or I'll trust God, Spirit, to transform me and change me. You can hear, if you've ever had an opportunity to talk to someone who's going through some difficulties, you can often hear their philosophy of life, one of these two perspectives on life, and how they pray about things. Somebody is dealing with an employer who's extremely difficult to get along with and who is always giving them a hard time, and you pray with that person about this individual. Often they'll pray, God, I can't seem to stop having bad thoughts about this person. I promise to stop thinking badly. Each morning before going into work, I'll read Philippians 2, and it's just so that I can be reminded of your sacrifice for me. Somebody say, I'm going to change. I'm going to control this situation. I'm going to make a difference in this situation. Or another way of praying is, God, you know I have a short temper. I'm not capable of changing, but you are. And I ask your Spirit to transform my attitude toward my coworker. Let me understand his life better. Give me the opportunities to tell him of a better way of living in your power. Let me see it. Let him see it first in how I express love to him. If you think about the life of Jesus walking on the earth, if you think about Jesus' everyday living, Jesus was a person of tremendous openness. He constantly was asking questions. He constantly was seeking to understand where people came from. He was telling people the truth, no doubt about that, but his first priority was to ask questions, to be open to people, to allow God's Spirit to work in their lives. He often had people who were totally disinterested in him. The Pharisees were a great example, but there are many others. That didn't bother him. What he was concerned about was being open to God's Spirit, trusting God to help and transform people's lives, and see what God would do. I really believe that one of the most dangerous prayers that we can pray is a prayer of openness to God's Spirit working in our lives. God, what do you want me to do today? How can I help? How can I answer people's questions? How can I understand where they're coming from in a better way? You may have heard this story. It's been around for quite a long time. Stephen Covey told this story in one of his early books, but it's worth repeating. The story is about a man in his middle 30s who's riding on a subway train in a large city. And it's late at night, and he has 4 kids. And they're all under 10. This is a good story because my daughter had, son-in-law had 4 kids, all under 10. So he was 4 kids, all under 10 on the subway train. The only other people on the train are an older couple, in their 60s, trying to get home. All 4 of these kids are bouncing off the walls. They are just going crazy. They're loud, they're yelling, they're screaming, they're pushing each other. Occasionally they bump into the older couple, who are like, ugh. And finally, after about 15 minutes, the older couple had it. They're just like, ugh. And so the older lady kind of leans over to him and says, do you understand? Do you see what your kids are doing? Don't you think you could be a little bit better father and take control of these kids? This is a mess. They're loud, they're obnoxious, they're hurting people and stuff. The father, who's sitting there seemingly oblivious to the whole thing, says to her, oh, I'm so sorry. 15 minutes ago, we were in the hospital and their mother just died. And I'm taking them home. One little piece of information, one little piece of understanding changed a person's entire mindset. Seeking first to be open to how we might understand where people are coming from and help them see what God has to offer them. What we don't have to offer people is a way to work harder and get to be better. what we have to offer people in Jesus. That's what we have to offer them. And we need to know and understand who they are, where they're coming from, to help them understand that Jesus can change their life from the inside out. Now, I'd like to share one other story if I could. I don't know what time it is because I haven't watched anymore. But my wife and I work with Crew, which is a Christian mission organization headquartered here in town. And one of the things that we have been working on quite a bit, which comes into play with some of the things going on across our country, is we've been working very hard to become an organization of greater diversity within Crew. So we've been doing a lot of things, studying a lot of things, working diligently to create pathways and opportunities and understanding what's going on within the African American community. I know there's a lot of other communities. I don't see a lot of African Americans in the church this morning, so I'm going to stick with that minority group. But we've been working a lot trying to understand a little bit about the African American community and what prevents them from being engaged and involved with us specifically as an organization. But what's even going on in their mindset? You know, Black Lives Matter and blacks against cops and unrest, and you just look at all that's going on in our society today, and it's like, what in the world? What's behind all this? How do we understand this a little bit? One of our speakers did a little fun experiment. Well, it wasn't really very fun, but he did an experiment with us, which really helped, I think, get a little bit of a taste of understanding. And so, if you don't mind, I'm going to do it with you. We're going to play a game of Monopoly. Okay? Ready? This is team number one. Right? Now you need to decide what Monopoly piece you want. All right? So a couple of you talk and figure out which Monopoly piece. Here we got team number two. You guys are team number two, and you get a pick your own Monopoly piece. So go ahead. Somebody be assertive and grab a Monopoly piece. All right, there's a lot of fun little pieces here. Did you guys decide?
We can hear, but we can include these.
A shoe is fine, whatever.
There's two.
These cards, and I think that might be really
Hat? Did somebody say a hat? A top hat? A hat. Top hat. All right, we're going to go with the top hat.
Car.
It really doesn't make any difference. Okay. The car. All right. Good folks have the car. All right, now, so we've got two teams. We've got team one, top hat. Team number two, car. All right. Team number one, you get to go first. You roll the dice. It's Nate. Anybody know where that is? No? No. Seven's the electric company. No, seven.
Connecticut?
It's either, I think it's Venture.
It's in the blues, the light
Yeah, that was like really clear.
It's in the light blue. It's in the light blue. All right, so the property's $120. You guys want to buy it?
Buy it.
All right, they want to buy it. All right, very good. So they've got a property. Your turn. You guys, you roll a 10. Oh, just visiting
That's visiting.
in the jail. So later. Team number two. Okay? You guys roll a 7. Okay? Now you're over to Pennsylvania Railroad. $200. You want to buy it? You want to buy it? All right. Railroads. That's important. It has to get done to get it. All right. You guys, your turn. You guys roll a 7. Community checks. Great. Draw a card. Lose a turn. All right. You guys roll 5. Which put you with. You want to go to Park Avenue. That's where you want to go. Okay, so here's what happens in the game. Team number 1 keeps rolling dice, buys property. Team number 2, you're now on community chest. So you guys said 5, that's what I was thinking. 5, you guys roll. And you land on one of the red property. Unfortunately, you guys can't buy property. Team number 1 keeps playing the game, keeps landing on utilities, railroads, different properties, passes go and collects $200. Each time you do that, you guys don't do anything. Pass go. Sorry about that, but you guys collect properties, you start building houses, hotels. The only property you guys, Baltic and Mediterranean, you can rent from these folks, but you can't buy it. Okay? This goes on for years, or even 50 turns. Okay. What's the status of the game right now? How would you describe this game? Rich and poor. Lucky and unlucky. It would have been, it would have even be more lucky or unlucky if the rules were set that way. But
Control or less than.
control and much less control. Okay, so we have a game that's probably most of us wouldn't describe as fair. Would we? Anybody want to describe that as a fair game? No, it's not a fair game. So here's the question. If you're now 50 moves or 50 years into this game, how do you change the game so that it becomes fair? How do you change the rules to what? Yeah, tough. Tough to change the rules. That is a poor, complete. It's not a complete description, but that description of the game is a fairly good description of what's happened in the United States. We have two groups of people that are playing very different games. One group of rules that set up for success, for wealth, for transportation, for utilities, for all kinds of success in life, and another set of rules which set you up for anything but. You don't get to follow the same rules. You don't get to buy the property. You don't get to own the transportation. And understanding that is just a small piece of understanding some of the underlying tensions in our culture today. And I believe speaks to the openness that we need as believers to understand others and to begin to offer them real solutions to, the real solution again is the person of Jesus Christ. And so God asks us to be open. Everyday life, He asks us to be open, to trust His Spirit, to listen, to understand, and to offer people the person of Jesus